with her until the day I die. Straight fire with torch niggas, 'cause this is pro science. In the ride 4 deep, getting high on trees. We drive slowly, trying to find enemies. I'ma slide home me like Apollo Creed. Nigga, y'all gon' see. All eyes on me.
Hello and welcome to Beats, Beds, and Browns. My name's Joe Skibby, and we're very excited here to be with Vivid Scientific, coming out from the Colorado Mountain region and ready to drop some knowledge on us. So thank you for being here. We appreciate your time and look forward to getting to know a little bit more about you, digging into your record library and really enjoying it, listening to a number of different tracks and looking to find out some of the backstory. So I know you're originally from the Colorado. I know you're originally from the Colorado region. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about your history and where you're coming from?
So I'm a Colorado native. I was born and raised in Denver, spent most of my childhood in the Denver area, most of my adolescence and teenage years in Aurora, Colorado, and actually went to school in Fort Collins as well. So I spent a large chunk of my life here in the city of Colorado, and definitely try to reflect that in some of my music. There's a lot of eclectic sounds out here, a lot of different angles that people take with the music out here. And I think mine's a pretty unique one, being somebody that's, lived here pretty much his entire life.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of implants, a lot of people moving here, Texas and California and so forth. So.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Talk about the influences and where they're all coming from and perhaps what different vibe they bring.
So I think our scene is highly influenced and not necessarily influential. I think there's a lot of uniqueness out here, but at the same time, I can see the influences from other cities shine kind of in some of our artists. I think Detroit has a really big influence on the sound, and I love that sound as well. It's definitely very popular right now. I think Detroit's got a huge influence. I think the drill scene is very popular. I think what the stuff that New York is doing. You're starting to see the lines blur between regions almost with how the music is sounding. And I can see that reflected here in Denver.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably to the betterment of the ultimate product and hopefully to the erosion of some boundaries that may have limited some of that co-exposure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So born and raised, you got family out there. You're a native. What do you guys do in Colorado?
There's quite a bit, if you're an outdoorsy type of person, year round, there's fun stuff to do. We have the mountains, so there's a lot of skiing, hiking. Our city's grown quite a bit over the last decade, I would say. And it's interesting to see that change. When I was a kid, as a teen, Colorado's quite different than what it is now. So we're definitely starting to get that big city vibe. So quite a stuff to do. A lot of people want to be out here. We got 420 coming up next week. That's a huge deal out here. It's a great place to be. It's a very attractive place to live, I think, for a lot of people. We've got beautiful weather, we've got beautiful scenery, we've got great people, we've got good food. So it's definitely a vibe, man, for sure.
Nice. Yeah, everybody will be celebrating 420 across the globe, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And all cooped up in pandemic restrictions and get out and celebrate, man.
Absolutely.
And are you an outdoorsy guy, or do you get out into the mountains? Do you snowboard? Do you ski?
I used to be a big time skier as a kid. My uncle was a big skier. Him and my aunt were both big time skiers, and they would take me up all the time. In my younger days, and I was pretty big time into skiing. I haven't been in several years as an adult. I would say it's been quite a while. Nowadays, a mountain trip's more like, renting a cabin and chilling in the jacuzzi type of thing,
Absolutely.
snowboarding, snowmobiling, all this stuff, super fun though. Absolutely. I'm up for it anytime. I just haven't been in a while.
What about, how do you engage in your community? Are you active in any philanthropic endeavors, or are you teaching kids, or what do you got going on?
And I feel like over the last year, I haven't been involved in like any type of community activity. And I think basically, mainly just because of the pandemic and just laying low. I've turned down a lot of show opportunities and, opportunities to kind of get out and connect with fans, just because I want to be responsible as well on my part and not, really kind of get out there too early when it's still a big risk. And so I've been kind of laying low, honestly, this last year. So I am definitely excited to see that stuff's seemingly starting to slowly open back up. I got my vaccination recently, so I feel pretty confident about that. I feel better about being in public and, being around folks, and as long as people are being careful. But yeah, I'm definitely happy to see that, things are starting to kind of move towards opening slowly, at least here in the Denver area. I'm seeing more shows starting to happen. So it's a good thing. I'm sure I'll be much more active in the coming months.
Nice. Yeah, no, I think we're all looking to turn that corner and just kind of return to some semblance of normalcy.
Yeah, we're almost there, I feel like. We'll see.
In that regard, in terms of performing versus, in studio or versus collaborations that may have been done virtually over the past year, talk to me a little bit about, has it been just kind of a static environment, or have you been writing, or have you been performing where possible, or?
I've been doing a lot of writing actually over this last year, I'd say. I was very hesitant early in the pandemic to really go out. Like I wasn't even going to the studio. Seeing people wasn't much in collaboration work, anything along those lines, and kind of just working on material for myself at that point. So a lot of writing got done. I started to kind of get back into the studio, I'd say last summer, to really start recording. And then that's still a pretty, intimate process, just me and the engineer, not a bunch of people or anything like that. Just real low key stuff. No performances. I haven't performed in over a year. The last performance I was booked for was March of 2020 last year, right when the stuff started.
Modest as ever, pull up looking like the Fonz, rocking Italian designer leather. I'm on my grind, I got my eye on cheddar. Dick riders trying to find a tether. The finest heaven's only 9 and better.
So I know a lot of performers or artists that we speak with, that's such a rush, being on stage. It's just an unmatched feeling, and oftentimes the draw of what got them into performing. How have you filled that void over the last year or so?
Man, I've actually been itching to kind of get back on the stage. I have a funny, I have different feelings about performing. Like I always have this dread about it at first, like the nerves, in front of a crowd type of thing. You get those butterflies. And then it's like when you're actually on the stage, you feel really good, especially if the crowd's engaging and stuff like that. You feel really, confident about what you're doing, and you're enjoying yourself. And then it's like the post-performance withdrawal. You think back on those performances, you're like, oh, I should have did this, or, you're kind of analyzing the whole process. Every time I perform, I always want to have my brothers with me, my DJ Mechanics and my man Don Banks. Yeah, man, and shout out to Top Flight Empire, man. They're the team that's always been kind of giving me these the looks for some of these shows and kind of getting me connected with the promoters and stuff. Yeah, man, we miss all of that stuff. Hopefully soon we can get something going.
I've personally never performed, but talking to some of the artists, I hear it's pretty cutthroat. And some promoters want you to pay to be on stage. Some won't give you a table to sell merch unless you give them a cut. I mean, talk to me about some of the realities of actually booking a performance and making it in the biz.
This is just the same for almost anything in this music industry. It's really kind of a pay-to-play type of situation, whether you're talking about performing or marketing or placements. It's usually some type of pay-to-win type of formula there. So typically what I've seen with shows out here is that you have a commitment for the amount of tickets, right? So let's say I'm going to have a show. I'm going to need to purchase 100 tickets, right, in order to get my placement for the show. And then it's basically up to me to sell those tickets if I want to see that money back or to actually make any money. That's typically how it's set up. You have to have a commitment up front of what you're able to bring to the venue. And then that's when you're, able to get on that stage, man. And I mean, that's just kind of like I said, it seems like that's just how it works, man, as far as music. Same with marketing. I've had artists, big artists reach out to me. I'm talking about like big artists reach out to me, asking me about what my budget is so they can help me. I'm like, man, that's how this works, I guess. So,
yeah. No, it's some of the reality of it. So you almost have to have an understanding of the business side, marketing, keeping your contacts, having that distribution base for when you get tickets. And then now you got to be worrying about that as well as performing as well.
Yeah, it's quite a bit, man. And it's a lot for just a single artist. I really want to build to the point where I have a little bit more of a team behind me, or at least a manager to kind of help facilitate some of those logistical things with shows and placements and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely quite a bit. You kind of have to have your finger on every aspect of it. That's something I struggle with, honestly. I'm more of a creative. That's the difference between the marketing piece and like just the creative side. I'm definitely a heavier leaning towards the creative piece. And then the other stuff just kind of comes after. I got to get in a better mind state to kind of like prioritize some of the other stuff, you know what I mean? Because the creativity is always going to be there, I feel like.
Nice. Yeah. Well, at least ride it while it is there, right? I mean,
that's true too. Strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah.
That's very true. Very, very true.
And that, that's one of the things of the artists we've interviewed, you've got by far the most information out and available, and the biggest discography. I love listening to your stuff. It was really neat, kind of unearthing and exposing myself to your skill set. Who's doing all that? I mean, are you doing it all now? You're getting all your stuff on SoundCloud. You're getting yourself on the different listing music sites. And
yeah, man, I do. I mean, I pretty much am a one-man army when it comes to Vivid Scientific. I'm getting more support, I feel like, but it's still a process. And yeah, it's me that's loading stuff up. It's me that's creating posts. It's me that's setting up studio time and organizing videos and trying to reach out for features and all those different things is essentially myself. Yes. And like I said, I'm trying to get to the point to where, there's a placement for me or, there's a team that can kind of help push that. And that's why I think a label situation is so ideal for somebody like myself, just because I know that they have stuff in place already to kind of help artists, and push their brand to the market that they're trying to hit. You know what I mean? So we'll get there eventually. At this point, a lot of the thing with music though is about how you take it. And for me, it's always been more about the craft and about just the love of making music and hip hop more so than, the success that might come from that. You know what I mean? I've never been, like I said, I'm such a creative. That's kind of where my energy and time is spent, and less worried about, how it's perceived or how I'm going to market it or how can I get it on this playlist or how can I, so.
Like the labels all have a framework for that, right? It's steps to take, outlines, things to do to get that stuff, and then the staff to do it. Most importantly, it's definitely pulling you away from your highest and best use, which is the creative. We talked a little bit about some of the venues that you like. What about, and it may be at one of the venues, it may not, but kind of the best crowd experience that you've ever had as a performer where you were just vibing and connecting with the people off stage while you're vibing on stage? My
favorite performance was at the Black Box with Pro Science. My producer, DJ Q, my man, DJ Mechanics, and Don Banks. We rocked the show. We had just dropped the first Pro Science album, I think the day prior. And then the next day we had a performance of it. And it was our first performance with Q as Pro Science as like a group. And we had some really good support. Like the building was pretty packed, man. And it was a lot of good, smiling faces and familiar faces there. So people really showed up, and it was just a great performance. I think that's still, when I look back, probably my favorite performance that I've done. And it could have just be because it was our first.
When I freak sentences deep, it's hard to compete with them. It's like my pen's ink is releasing a snake's venom. A state pen and bars is as hard as a cage sentence. I'm sharpening prison shanks and I'm carving your face with them. Fake spitters better be grateful.
Sometimes success is a destination, right? Sometimes it's just being on the journey. Sometimes it's just getting on stage for the first time. In terms of Vivid Scientific, what's your definition of success?
To me, successful is being able to pull up any random verse of Vivid Scientific and that should be sharp. You know what I'm saying? That to me is successful. Like, you can go and play any of my catalog, pull up any verse that I've done on IG or whatever, and it be sharp. To me, that's what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to improve upon that every time. So when I drop again, I want it to be better than the last time I dropped, right? And that to me is what the success is, because I'm just such an MC. You know what I'm saying? I'm just always trying to outdo, you know what I mean, what I did before and say something crazy. You know what I mean? That's just where I'm at with it, and so that's where that's where my passion comes from. Is just making sure that I'm just staying super sharp and just everything that you pull up, like, man, this cat just he doesn't miss. You know what I mean? So I try to put that energy into every verse and everything that I do. And that's how I personally measure my success. I'm like, is this colder than the last shit I dropped?
Yeah.
And yeah.
No, I definitely, appreciate the intellect behind your verses, and to hear you state that that's part of your pride is good to make that connection. In listening to some of your stuff, I just wanted to hear kind of the inspiration or some of the background, or at least your interpretation of what it meant, as I have my own that's not as relevant. But in listening to like Internet Bully, right?
Okay.
It's got such a bold stance against online bullying and just being the top dog, and maybe even a little battle rap history to it.
Yeah, there's actually a story to that. So me and my man Don Banks have a group called the Barbarians, and we had just dropped our tape essentially on SoundCloud, and we put out a video for one of our songs called Godzilla, and we posted it on Facebook. And we're going through the comments, and there's this guy in our comments that's just talking all this trash, calling it whack, and just going on and
just
on.
One guy over and
how
over.
Terrible our music is, and so there's this one guy. Everybody else is like, "Oh, it's fire," whatever. They liked it, and then there's this one guy who's just like, "This is trash," talking all this shit. And so, I mean, you've heard my music. I don't do that disrespectful stuff but not with rap. Not with the mic. So I saw it, and I'm immediately like, well, what's up with it? Because I'm with the smoke. So I'm like, well, let me hear what you got. If you talking stuff about, well, what you got it. So story short, got it. He dropped some bars. I came back at his throat and dropped a diss for him, and then that was pretty much it. I kind of killed him, and then I was still angry. And so at that time, I was writing for Pro Science, the project. I was still angry. You know what I'm saying? Or not angry, but I just still had that smoke. I wanted to still get that off my chest. I was still had my chest poked out. You know what I'm saying? I was still ready to eat. And so I had this beat I had like 50 beats from Q. And then I just, that beat, I just end up writing that Internet Bully stuff. And I was just really talking about how, I'll bring it to any one of you cats. Y'all can come to my page talking stuff, and I'll bring it straight to you. It was essentially where I was coming from on that track. And we just made a song out of it.
Nice. Oftentimes in the history of your career, you'll find a track or a album that really takes off, and all of a sudden you'll be an overnight success.
Yeah.
We all know that that's not how it happens, right? So, talk to me about the slog. Talk to me about starting. Talk to me about where you're at now. Talk to me about what actually goes into any definition of overnight success, the preseason, so to speak.
Yeah. So I always seesaw with where I'm at with rap music, believe it or not. I get into these modes. It's super just not depressed about it, but I'm like really disillusioned with the whole idea of really trying to do something big with it, just because sometimes I sit back and think about how many people this and how oversaturated the game is, and just the music that I make and where the kind of the populace is at with what they're listening to. There's not a lot of crossover, although there has been some more underground type of stuff to come up to kind of like the mainstream, as opposed to, like Griselda and some of these cats like that are starting to really kind of get more of a mainstream recognition. But a lot of times, bro, I'm just like, I really just try to position my mind frame to where it's just something that I do for myself. It's something that's fun because I enjoy it and because I feel like I'm good at it. And that's really where I try to keep myself. Because if I put myself in the mind state of like, I'm going to blow up overnight, I'm going to be spitting on Sway in the morning or something like that, I just feel like I'm going to be setting myself up for a even bigger disappointment, as opposed to just kind of like doing my thing, being satisfied with the quality of music that I'm putting out and the support that it's getting from the fans that I have now, and just kind of leaving it in that space. You know what I mean?
I mean, the true path to success, it's not chasing money. It's not chasing fame. It's, am I happy doing what I'm doing? I definitely get the vibe from you that you're enjoying.
So I guess, honestly, One of the things that I would say that would be a significant success for me is if I were able to do this full time. I think that would be a pretty big success and a good milestone for my career. So that's kind of what I'm working towards now. I guess that's ultimately the dream, right? If you can support yourself and your family by doing exactly what you said, doing something that you love, I think that's everybody's ultimate goal. So,
yeah, I mean, whether it's in artistry or everyday America, how many people hate what they do and don't get any joy out of it, where at least you have the opportunity to chase the joy, right?
Absolutely.
I know there's so many different venues and places to listen to new artists and locate new music. Where do you find the jams that you're listening to? Where do you find stuff that inspires you, or where do you just chill and listen to music? No.
Well, so I get I feel like social media is kind of like my access point to most music that I discover and find. My social media is primarily like all music. I follow nothing but pretty much producers and other MCs and stuff like that. So the stuff that they post, the stuff that they share from the people that they create with, is kind of like how I'm, get into some of the artists that I've discovered and just listening to what the people are saying, you know what I mean? And what the actual fans are ingested in what they're talking about. It's kind of how I, find my way to different artists. I listen to shows like I-95. They'll have cats come up there and freestyle that you've never heard of, and they'll be amazing to go check out their music and stuff like that. So, yeah, man, the internet. It's all on the internet. You know what I'm saying?
Once you realize that the mainstream siphon isn't necessarily producing the best content, and you can find those alternate venues, it's a goldmine. There's so many talented artists, yourself, other interviews we've done, Ethan Draco, Constant Albert, Sam Early Morning. You guys just spit flame, and they're out there, they're unknown, they're undiscovered, or they're just starting out. And there's
a ton.
Almost get
that's
more
why
joy
we're so grateful for platforms
like
yours. That's why we're so happy to be on platforms like yours, where we can actually get a little bit of exposure and people kind of find out about some of these hidden gems that are all over. I mean, I feel like personally, I discover a new cat in my city weekly almost. Like I have a new favorite artist locally, like almost every other week, because I'm finding a new dude. I'm like, yo, this cat, where the hell did this dude come from? Like, and that's just how it is. You know what I mean? And like you said, there's some amazing talent out there that just have not been heard and have not been discovered. And it's a struggle for those artists, but at the same time, the gratification when you actually find something like that, you actually gain a new fan, and people get put onto your music, is a really good feeling. For example, when you reached out about this opportunity, you're talking about how I listen to your projects and stuff. I'm like, man, that's incredibly dope. You know what I mean? It's not often I get a lot of feedback like that too. So once you get it, it's pretty special.
Yeah, and like you said, I was maybe a short clip to a YouTube channel or a SoundCloud channel, and then I'm listening to it for a week, and I'm like, man, this is
and then you fall into the exactly, man. It's like that. You fall into the rabbit hole sometimes with some of these artists that you discover. I've done that so many times.
Do you guys have anything coming up? Any releases or any projects late summer that you want to talk about and share with
us? Late summer. So I'm working on Pro Science 3 right now. The time that this drops, I'd imagine we'll have that out, and it'll be full on go time from there. I've got a bunch of different projects I've been working on. I actually haven't dropped anything yet this year, which is kind of, I usually don't go this long without dropping something. So I'm actually gearing up for a project with my man, Playboy Troy, who's a producer from Mind Control Music. We're going to be dropping that at the end of April. And then by the time this airs, Pro Science 3 should be out. And that's, of course, with Professor Q, the long awaited. I feel like that project is probably the best material that I've ever done to date. And I'm extremely excited for people to check it out. It's my music, of course, but I got to say it's an instant classic. Like, I just feel like it's an instant classic. The music is timeless. We put a lot of time and energy into it. I'm just incredibly proud of it. It's my best music. So that's coming soon. And then from there, I'll be working with a producer named Zane DeVito out here in the Colorado area. We're going to do an EP. He's got a very unique sound. It's kind of trappy, but at the same time, he uses some pretty soul like samples, and he just kind of fuses it together. So it's a different sound that I've done before. So I'm very excited about that project. All 5 of those tracks are fire, and they sound completely different from Pro Science or from anything else that I've dropped. And then from there, I'll be working with one of my guys. His name's Specs, another producer out here. Incredibly talented kid. He's just got some super, boom bap, hard hitting type tracks. And it amazes me, man. These kids, man, I'm like, how these kids, 23, 24, 25 years old, just coming with these soulful sampling, just, boom bap hitters. Like, you know what I mean? It just surprises me every time. So my man Specs, we're going to be working on a project too. Quick little 5-joint EP, and that's in the process. And then finally, I'll be teaming back up with Gloomy Sunday.
A long time ago in the galaxy far away, retro yet modern day, United Writers Association should honor me for what I've achieved. Let's go.
Let's talk about influences. Let's start first with influences outside of music, and what do you count as influences in your life?
Music's out, or influences outside of music. I'd say my biggest influence is my son. I have a 10-year-old son. It's just amazing to see him grow and just think back on when he was just little to where he's at now. Like, he's literally getting ready to start going through puberty. And it's just, the journey there is just amazing to watch. And I still just kind of reflect back on being a father, like, wow, I just cannot believe this sometimes. Sometimes it still feels surreal. I don't know. I just have moments when I look at my kid and I'm just like, what the heck? Like, this kid is like,
in the blink of an eye. In the blink
I just can't believe it. So I just really try to, he's my biggest influence and my biggest reason for, just doing anything and trying to be successful and just showing him, what dope music's about. And, he's over my shoulder sometimes when I'm writing and kind of checking me out and stuff. And it's just kind of cool. You know what I'm saying? He's getting older now and he can start to like understand, and because, I say crazy stuff. And now it's to the point now where he's articulate enough to really pick up on shit that I'm saying. He's 10 years old now. So yeah, he's starting to listen. And it's just an interesting thing to see how he's been growing and just watching him become a little man is probably my biggest, inspiration as far as outside of music. As far as in music, I have several influences. My biggest influences in the beginning, I'd say, were like the Wu-Tang Clan and Celly Cell and like Tupac, and I mean, just all kinds of stuff all across the board. Most of my the older people that were around me were listening to like a lot of West Coast music. And then a lot of my friends at school were kind of like listening to like East Coast music. So I kind of was listening to all kinds of stuff. The person that made me feel like this is how you rap was probably the first time I was hearing Cannabis back in the late 90s. Whenever I first heard Cannabis, whenever I first started hearing that dude, I was like, now this is how you rap. Like that in my ear, I was like, this is how you're supposed to rap. And I feel like
telling a story, yeah.
Yeah, and he's just so like incredibly like sharp, you know what I'm saying? Smart, you know what I'm saying? The intellectual, some of the shit he's saying is like, wow, like you just didn't hear cats like that. And that, I think that was a huge influence on like the core of my style. You know what I'm saying? Like Underground, Grave Diggers, you know what I mean? Just stuff people haven't even heard of. So I was always into super hardcore stuff. And I think like just that whole Cannabis, that vibe really kind of set the core of my style.
Grave Diggers used to tour with Ice-T when he busted Body Count. Really? Body Count and Grave Diggers. I don't know. I'm familiar with Grave Diggers. Not to their.
Yeah, Grave Diggers was a group that RZA. It was like a Wu-Tang offshoot. It had the RZA in it. Who else was in it? I think. Yeah. So anyway, man, I was into them. Sons of Man, bro. Anything Wu-Tang back in the day, I was totally eating it up.
Killer Bees.
Yeah, Killer Bees, all that stuff. And then like I listened to like as a kid, like even when I was probably too young, I was listening to like Dre and Snoop Dogg, Doggy Style to this day, probably one of my, if not my favorite, one at least my top 3 favorite albums of all time.
I was going to say, you mentioned earlier different styles and how, this is, we're releasing this. It's something different than what we've ever done before. And as a fan who has,
Sure.
crossed, from NWA and Compton's Most Wanted to Most Def to Daz Effects to Black Star, those are wildly different styles. To hear an artist
Yes.
say, I'm not going to be tied into a record label, I'm not going to be tied into a promo deal where I got to spit the same stuff out over and over and over again. I'm still going to explore styles. I'm still going to be experimental and test different
Exactly.
styles.
Absolutely, man. I could never be put in a box like that. Like if that was the conditions of a situation, is that I had to make a specific kind of music, it's just something I would never be interested in. I have to be creative. I have to do something different. I want my music to sound different from the last thing. At least sonically, you know what I'm saying? Sonically, I want the beats to be different sounding. I want the flows that I'm bringing to be completely, different. I think I appreciate that in artists sometimes, like when they are able to kind of like give you something that's just not their typical. I really can appreciate that as well. So I try to do that. Sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'll just hear something that's just a crazy beat, and just go with it. I wrote an R&B song a couple nights ago, for example, like, and it's fire. I think it's fire. You know what I'm saying?
Tell me a little bit about, legacy. I know we talked about definition of success. We talked about just making sure that we're constantly improving and spitting bars with high quality, more fire than the last. What's Vivid Scientific's legacy? And it could be parenting. It could be hip hop industry influence. It could be anything, obviously.
I feel like people have this thing where they don't appreciate stuff until it's gone, right? And you see it all the time. And when I think about my legacy, I just think about my catalog, and like when people at the end of the day go back and listen to it, that I feel like it's going to hold up, man. And I feel like a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, especially coming up with like Pro Science 3, for example, I feel like some of the music is just going to be timeless. And I feel like, 20 years from now, if you revisit that album, you'll be able to take something away from it. And that's kind of how I envision my legacy. It's just like when I'm not here anymore, like the fans, my family, my friends, they'll be able to hear me and hear, the music that I made still, hopefully forever. And hopefully that lives on for an eternity. But yeah, I think that that's something I'm conscious about. And that's why another reason why I want to show up for every verse. Like I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to miss on any verse. I want to make sure that that's kind of like a part of the legacy that I leave, and like the pedigree that I bring to the game. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, legacy is a big deal. I mean, I want to make sure that mine upholds. I think that the records that I leave in the vault, man, are going to be respected at the end of the day, and I think people will look back like, damn, this cat was spitting. You know what I'm saying? And that's pretty much all you can ask for.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said, as we're talking about the variety that you bring to the table. And, sometimes if you want to get known for something, you got to bang that drum and bang the same drum. But you're bringing a full
Yeah.
band to the table, and you're bringing such a wide variety of skills that I can't wait to hear the different areas that you're unearthing and hear your new stuff.
Appreciate that, man. I'm excited for it to come out, man.
Let's say you're going from Colorado to the East Coast. You're going to be in the car the whole way, and you can only listen to 3 artists the whole way there. What are your 3 artists and why?
Dang. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna go with Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style. That album has no skips to me, and I can listen to that. I can listen to that forever. So I'm definitely gonna bring that. I feel like Royce the 5'9's Death is Certain album has no skips to me. Like that is a classic, and I will listen to it until the day I die. I listen to it on repeat. I can listen to that on the road trip all day. And then finally, I will probably say something out of Rock Marciano's catalog, who's like one of my favorite MCs as well. That cat is just, in my opinion, like the prototype of like that East Coast real rap sound. You know what I'm saying? He does a lot of his own production as well. He's the prototype, man, and all of his albums are just heaters. So I feel like between the Snoop Doggy Style, the Death is Certain, and then like if I can just run through Marciano's catalog, bro, we can drive from New York to Cali.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? And be
getting
good
there
to
with a
go.
smile on your face.
Yes, sir.
If you could place a guest spot on any performer's album, who would it be?
Oh, snap. I don't know, bro. It had to be something like something prestigious. I feel like I want to be on somebody great's album. You know, I don't even know. There's so many. That's a tough question, bro.
Like hip hop
who's
Hall of
dropping?
Fame great, you're talking?
Yeah, I want to be like on Nas's next shit or something, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like who? Let me hop on. Let me hop on Sci-Hi the Prince's new album or some shit. Like I want to be on something special. Like, you know what I mean? I think that would be cool to be on something, maybe also something that's highly anticipated.
All right, it's that time in the interview for hard hitters and wig splitters. We do a deep dive into the hard-hitting questions that our audience demands of our artists. Try and fly through these, Vivid. We're just looking for a quick answer. And I got we'll call this the Colorado edition, starting off with the first question. Snowboard or skis?
All right. Skis. I grew up as a skier, so
yeah, no. Yard sales everywhere, right? Beef or no beef?
Beef.
Cash or Queens?
Cash or Queens? Oh, shit, cash, bro.
Big black truck or 6'4"?
Give me the truck. Black truck.
Edibles or flour?
I'm a flower guy, bro. Light me up. Flower. Yeah, flower.
Tupac or Biggie?
Pac. I was a Pac. I ride for Pac, bro.
So we're Chicago region, Northwest Indiana, so we go Bears or Colts, but maybe I should say Bears or Broncos. Huh?
Bro, you already know the answer to that one now. Bronco gang over here.
Yeah, I felt that.
Bronco flag in the back of there.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Okay, come on now.
Nike or Champion?
Nike. Go with the Nikes.
But Rockies are American League, is that right?
Bro, I don't know about baseball.
Yeah,
I think they are. I think they are American League.
That's a big one, but let's go Sox to Rockies, and I imagine that's Rockies.
Come on now. Yeah, you know what it is.
I got you.
Colorado, man, they're big time about their repping their teams, man. Like, you know, we feel a certain kind of way about all our sports teams. We rep them hardcore.
Nice. All right, this is a big one. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No, I say no. But as I say that, I don't know what you classify it as. It's just a hot dog, right?
Question for the ages, man.
I wouldn't say it's a sandwich, but
no sandwich. All right, ketchup or no ketchup on your hot dog?
Ketchup. Gotta have ketchup.
Hot or mild?
Hot. I like spicy food.
All right.
All day.
Jordan or LeBron?
Jordan. Yeah, I grew up in the Jordan era. Like a lot of these kids can't say Jordan. You know what I'm saying? I grew up watching Jordan, so.
Absolutely. Yeah. Battles with the Cavs and the Pistons. Ellen or Oprah?
Yeah, I'm nice as shit. I'll sacrifice my
I'm gonna go Oprah. I'm gonna go Oprah. But I do like Ellen DeGeneres. I think she's hilarious.
They're both great. Marvel or DC?
Oh, I'm a Marvel boy, man. Been Marvel since a kid. It took me forever to even start liking DC shit as a kid.
Nice. Bezos or Musk?
Ah, man, Musk is cool. I like Musk.
Jardinier?
Yeah, Elon
Jardinera.
Musk. What is that? Jardinier.
Yeah, so that's another
What is the
local
meaning
one.
of that?
Jardinier is like, what do they call it? It's like a relish that you put on a sandwich that's hot. And it's,
Okay.
so it's got cauliflower, carrots, hot peppers, olives.
Oh, I know that. I know exactly what that is. It comes in a little jar.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. That or what now? What's the second option?
It's a pronunciation question. Is it Jardinier or Jardinera? You know,
I think
us
Jardinier
Chicagoans,
sounds...
we mispronounce everything. So we gotta
See, I don't know, but Jardinier sounds phonetically better to me, I guess.
Yeah. I forget. I took a road trip west, and I was at a Subway, and I tried to order it, and they looked at me like I was crazy.
What?
Oh yeah, forget it. It's a regional thing. All right, and then the final question: vanilla or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Perfect.
No hesitation.
I can't thank you enough for your time. Like I said, I hope this is the first of many communications. Keep us informed of what you got dropping. We'll tag it in. We'll co-promote it. We're looking to build something long-lasting here, as I know you are. So thanks for being a part of it, and I can't wait to see how our journeys overlap.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Anytime, this was my pleasure. I'm really excited about what you're doing with your brand there. Like I said, I think those three elements come together is super unique, and I'm anxious to see what you guys go from here with it.
All right, man. I appreciate your time.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye.
Yeah, I'm nice as shit. I'll sacrifice my life for this. And when I die, you still couldn't snatch the mic from my icy grip. But while I still exist, it's like I write my rhymes with a dynamite stick. I'm trying to blow with these lines, but not the kind you sniff. It's Colorado's finest.